Reddit. Just for a laugh. Skydiving for the first time. A man went skydiving for the first time. "It's easy," said the instructor. "Just count to 5 and pull on the main chute." The instructor continued. "If that doesn't open, count to 10 and pull on the reserve chute. Super easy," he concluded. "Then you'll float slowly to the ground, and our bus will be there to drive you back to the airport." The man jumped out the plane and pulled on the main chute. Nothing happened. He pulled on the reserve chute. Nothing happened. He looked down at the ground, which was approaching fast, and said, "I bet that bus won't be there to pick me up either. I want to divorce my wife." A guy wants a divorce. He tells the judge, "I just can't take it anymore. Every night she's out until way after midnight, just going from bar to bar." Judge asks, "What's she doing?" The guy answers, "Looking for me." "What am I, baker?" Wife asks her husband to fix the fridge. He replies, "What am I, a repairman?" So she got their neighbor to fix it. She tells her husband it's fixed. "Our neighbor said he would fix it if I either slept with him or baked him a pie." Husband laughs and asks, "So what kind of pie did you bake him?" Wife replies, "What am I, a baker? My son's brand new $200 bike." A father went on a 2-week business trip. He comes back home and sees his son riding a brand new $200 bike. Father asks, "Hey son, where did you get the money for the bike?" Son answers, "From hiking." "Hiking?" The father asks, "How do you get money from hiking?" Son replies, "Oh, mom's boss has been coming over and gives me $20 to take a hike." 3 friends are stranded on a small island. After a few weeks with no hope of rescue, they come across a lamp in the sand. They pick it up, and poof, out comes a genie. "Thank you for releasing me from my 1,000 years of imprisonment. I will now grant each of you a wish," says the genie. The first guy says, "Well, I have a wife and a 2-year-old back home. If I'm gone, who's gonna take care of them? So I would like you to send me back to them, please." Poof, a puff of cloud picks the man up and flies him away. The second guy says, "Well, my parents are old and frail, and I'm the only son they have. I have to take care of them and be there with them when they go. So please send me back." Poof, another puff of cloud carries him away. The third guy, looking sad, says, "Well, I'm not married and my parents are dead. I don't have many friends really. Just those 2. So what's your wish?" Asks the genie. "Bring them back here." The knob. A rich older woman had an addiction to plastic surgery, and would go to her surgeon's office regularly for little touch-ups here and there. One day she went in and asked about a full facelift. Her surgeon suggested, instead of getting the facelift, he could install the knob for her. "What's the knob?" she asked. "It's a small device I implant on the back of your head. Every year, you give the knob a 1/4 turn and it will tighten up the skin on your face. You'll never need to come back for facial issues." The woman is ecstatic and decides to go ahead with the procedure. After recovery, the plastic surgeon gives the knob a 1/4 turn and her features immediately improve. Less wrinkles, the eyelids are no longer as droopy as they were, and the extra skin under her jaw tightened nicely. She gave him her thanks and went on her way. About 3 years later, the woman came back to the office and demanded to see the doctor. "Look at these giant bags under my eyes. What is going on here? You told me this knob would keep my face tight and beautiful." The doctor looked, gasped and asked her how often she'd been turning the knob. "Oh, I didn't feel like once a year was enough, so I was giving the knob a full turn every 6 months." "Ah," the doctor replies, "that explains it, ma'am. Those aren't bags under your eyes, they're your breasts." "Oh hell," the woman exclaimed, "I suppose that explains the goatee." The 3 old farts. 3 very elderly men are discussing their medical woes. The 70-year-old says, "I have an awful time with my bladder. I have to go all the time, and sometimes it comes on pretty suddenly." The 80-year-old says, "It's my bowels. Hardly any control at all, always having to jam this walker to full speed." The 90-year-old retorts, "I've got it all over you guys. Bladder works fine. 7 a.m. like clockwork. Bowels at 8. Everything works like it's order." Long pause. "I only wish I could wake up before noon." The Saudi guy. There was a Saudi guy who was studying in Pennsylvania University. His father was one of the richest sheikh in Middle East. Every day he comes to his college in his own Ferrari GT 250 while the others use public transport. This makes him quite uncomfortable and sad. One day he texts his dad and says, "Dad, I'm the only one who comes to college in Ferrari while everyone including my friends and teachers uses subway train. This makes me sad and uncomfortable." His dad replied after few hours, "Don't worry son, I understand how you're feeling right now. I just transferred the money. Go get yourself a subway train. Love from Dad." The only cow that stopped giving milk. The people did some research and found that they could buy a cow from Moscow for 2,000 rubles, or one from Minsk for 1,000 rubles. Being frugal, they bought the cow from Minsk. The cow was wonderful. It produced lots of milk all the time, and the people were amazed and very happy. They decided to acquire a bull to mate with the cow and produce more cows like it. Then they would never have to worry about the milk supply again. They bought a bull and put it in the pasture with their beloved cow. However, whenever the bull came close to the cow would move away. No matter what approach the bull tried, the cow would move away from the bull and he could not succeed in his quest. The people were very upset and decided to ask their wise rabbi what it to do. They told the rabbi what it was happening. Whenever the bull approaches our cow, she moves away. If he approaches from the back, she moves forward. When he approaches her from the front, she backs off. An approach from the side and she just walks away to the other side. The rabbi thought about this for a minute and asked, "Did you buy this cow from Minsk?" The people were dumbfounded, since they had never mentioned where they had gotten the cow. "You are truly a wise rabbi," they said. "How did you know we got the cow from Minsk?" The rabbi answered sadly, "My wife is from Minsk." Two kids outside a clinic. Two children, Johnny and Alex, were sitting outside a clinic. Alex was crying very loudly. "Johnny, why are you crying?" "Alex, I came here for a blood test." "Johnny, so, are you afraid?" "Alex, no, for the blood test. They cut my finger." After hearing this, Johnny started weeping, making Alex feel surprised as well as curious, and Alex asked, "Why are you crying now?" "Johnny, I came for a urine test." The greedy American, German and an Indian. There were three men, an American, a German and an Indian. From thin air a jinn appears. He asks them one item they would love to consume. The American says cheeseburgers, so the jinn puts him in a prison cell with years worth of cheeseburgers inside and locks him up. The German says beer, so he locks him in a prison cell full of beers. The Indian says cigarettes, he locks him up too. The jinn comes back after a year, and opens the cells one by one. The American seems fat and happy and all burgers are gone. The German looks hungover and all beers are gone. When he opened the Indian's cell, not a single cigarette is missing and he appears weak and frail. The jinn asks, "What happened?" Indian answered, "Oh my God, you idiot. Why did you forgot to give me a lighter?" The boat owner. The IRS suspected a fishing boat owner wasn't paying proper wages to his deckhand, so they sent an agent to investigate him. IRS agent, I need a list of your employees and how much you pay them. Boat owner, well, there's Clarence, my deckhand. He's been with me for 3 years. I pay him $1,000 a week plus free room and board. Then there's the mentally challenged guy. He works about 18 hours every day and does about 90% of the work around here. He makes about $30 per week, pays his own room and board, and I buy him a bottle of Bacardi rum and a dozen Budweisers every Saturday night so he can cope with life. He also gets to sleep with my wife occasionally. IRS agent, that's the guy I want to talk to, the mentally challenged one. Boat owner, that would be me. What would you like to know? I love my neighbors. My neighbors are kids that have just moved out for the first time, I presume just based on the fact they're a bit immature. I hear unimaginable sounds through the walls including farts, really loud sex and screaming over mold. I think it's so funny just because of how ignorant they are. that everyone hears their conversations about how they haven't showered in 4 days or that their apartment smells like a dead body. I see them around occasionally and I feel like I'm in on a little secret, like I know you haven't showered this week, and that your hookup saw skid marks in your underwear and kicked you out. These kids are so entertaining. I feel much luckier when I'm completely nude. An attractive blonde from Cork, Ireland, arrived at the casino. She seemed a little intoxicated and bet $20,000 in a single roll of the dice. She said,
"I hope you don't mind, but I feel much luckier when I'm completely nude."
With that, she stripped from the neck down, rolled the dice and with an Irish brogue yelled,
"Come on baby, mama needs new clothes."
As the dice came to a stop, she jumped up and down and squealed,
Yes, I won."
She hugged each of the dealers, picked up her winnings and her clothes and quickly departed. The dealers stared at each other dumbfounded. Finally, one of them asked, "What did she roll?" The other answered, "I don't know, I thought you were watching." The kid in the brothel. A father and kid are walking through the countryside. The boy is just learning to read, so he reads out all the signs. At one point they pass the local brothel, and the kid reads out loud, B-U-N, Bunny Ranch, brothel. "Dad, what's a brothel?" So the dad prefers not to tell what's going on and says he doesn't know, and they go on. But the kid is nosy, and the next day he goes out on his bike, goes again to the Bunny Ranch, to find out what's happening there, and rings the doorbell. "Hi, what's a brothel?" The girl who opened the door sees him, and thinks, "I'm not going to tell you buddy." So she tells him, "Well, this is a place where you can eat pancakes." She takes the kid to the kitchen where all of the girls think he's adorable. They make him a bunch of pancakes and he goes home, quite late. He comes home, and his mom says finally, "There you are. Where have you been?" And the kid says, "To the brothel." They were sweet and hot. The spoon in the restaurant. A man once visits a popular restaurant which is busy all the time. He was ordering the food and he noticed that his waiter carried a spoon in his pocket. It seemed a little strange. Then he looked around and saw that all of the staff had a spoon in their pockets. He asked his waiter, "Why the spoon?" "Well," he explained, "the restaurant's management found out that spoon was the most frequently dropped utensil. It has a drop frequency of approximately 3 spoons per table per hour. If our personnel are better prepared, we can reduce the number of trips back to the kitchen and save 2 man-hours per shift." As luck would have it, he dropped his spoon and the waiter was able to replace it with his spare. "I'll get another spoon next time I go to the kitchen instead of making an extra trip to get it right now," said the waiter. The man was impressed. He also noticed that there was a string hanging out of the waiter's fly. Looking around, he noticed that all the waiters had the same string hanging from their flies. So before the waiter walked off, he asked the waiter, "Excuse me, but can you tell me why you have that string right there?" "Oh, certainly." Then the waiter lowered his voice. "The management also found out that we can save time in the restroom by tying this string to our dick. We can pull it out without touching it and eliminate the need to wash our hands, shortening the time spent in the restroom by 45%. The man asked, "After you get it out, how do you put it back?" "Well," he whispered, "I don't know about the others, but I use the spoon." The sin of the third nun. A mother superior called 3 nuns and asked them to do a sin or something wrong. The nuns were hesitant because they didn't want to, but the superior said it would be a lesson in confession. Then a little later, one came back and was crying. "Why, what did you do?" asked the mother superior. "I picked flowers in the garden." "Okay, your sins are forgiven. Go drink the holy water." The nun did as told. Then another nun came. She was also crying. "Why, what did you do?" "I stole a candy from a kid." "Okay, your sins are forgiven. Go drink the holy water." She also did as told. Then the third nun came, but she was roaring with laughter. "Why, what did you do?" asked the mother superior sternly. "I peed in the holy water." The parrot from a brothel. A lonely wife went to a pet shop. She walks in and says, "My husband is at work all day. My 2 daughters are adult and have moved out. I am so lonely. I want a companion." The clerk says, "We do have a talking parrot here, but I have to warn you. The parrot lived in a brothel before we got him. He knows some rude expressions. Oh, a talking parrot would be lovely, the woman says and brings him. She arrives at home and the parrot says, "Ah, a new brothel and a new madam." Later in the day her 2 daughters visit her. The parrot says, "Ah, a new brothel and a new madam, and new whores." In the evening the husband arrives at home. The parrot says, "Ah, hello James, it's you again." The penguin in a limousine. A cop pulls over a man who appears to be chauffeuring a penguin in a limousine. "Sir," barks the cop, "is that a penguin you're driving around?" "Yes it is," the driver responds cheerfully. "Is there a problem?" "Of course there is. That is completely illegal. If you want to avoid arrest, take that penguin to the zoo immediately." "Of course officer, I understand," says the driver. 2 days later, the same cop is astonished to find the exact same limo heading down the highway, still with its penguin passenger. He pulls them over, and is further astonished to see that the penguin is now wearing a hat and sunglasses. "Sir," he says to the driver, "isn't this the exact same penguin I pulled you over for just 2 days ago?" The driver replied, "Yes officer, and didn't I tell you to take it to the zoo?" "Oh, well, I did." "Today we're going to the beach." The little firefighter. A firefighter is working on the engine outside the station, when he notices a little boy next door in a little red wagon, with a tiny ladders hung off the side, and a garden hose tightly coiled in the middle. The boy is wearing a firefighter's helmet, and has the wagon tied to a dog and a cat. The firefighter walks over to take a closer look. "That sure is a nice fire truck," the firefighter says with admiration. "Thanks," says the little boy. As the firefighter looks a little closer, he notices that the boy has tied the wagon to the dog's collar and to the cat's testicles. "Little partner," the firefighter says, "I don't want to tell you how to run your fire truck, but if you were to tie that rope around the cat's collar, I think you could go faster." The little boy says, "You're probably right, but then I wouldn't have a siren." The lonesome stranger. Ned decided to go golfing in Minnesota with his buddy, Carl, so they loaded up Ned's minivan and headed north. After driving for a few hours, they got caught in a terrible blizzard, so they pulled into a nearby farm and asked the attractive lady who answered the door if they could spend the night. "I realize it's terrible weather out there and I have this huge house all to myself, but I'm recently widowed," she explained, "and I'm afraid the neighbors will talk if I let you stay in my house." "Don't worry," Ned said, "we'll be happy to sleep in the barn, and if the weather breaks, we'll be gone at first light." The lady agreed, and the 2 men found their way to the barn and settled in for the night. Come morning, the weather had cleared, and they got on their way. About 2 years later, Ned got an unexpected letter from an attorney. It took him a few minutes to figure it out, but he finally determined that it was from the attorney of that attractive widow he had met on the golf weekend. He dropped in on his friend Carl and asked, "Carl, that night at the barn, in that farm we stayed at on our golf holiday in Minnesota about 2 years ago, do you remember it?" "Sure I do," said Carl. "Did you, happen to get up in the middle of the night and pay the widow a visit at the house?" "Well, yes," Carl said, a little embarrassed about being found out. "I have to admit that I did." "And did you happen to give her a false name?" Carl's face turned beet red and he said, "Yeah, look, I'm really sorry buddy. I panicked a bit and gave her your name, actually." "Why do you ask?" "Because I'm rich. She just died and left me everything." The stripper's ad. A stripper got desperate and tired of the men she was with, always turning out to be assholes. She puts an ad on a dating site simply saying, "I want a man who will never beat me, never run away from me, and is good in bed." After dating a few more assholes, the doorbell rings one day. She opens the door to find a man in a wheelchair with no arms or legs. Desperate, she says, "Fine, did you read my ad?" The man replies, "Yes, I've got no arms so I can't beat you, and no legs so I can't run away." She thinks for a moment and asks, "Okay, well are you good in bed?" He says, "Well, I rang the doorbell, didn't I?" The chicken farmer. A chicken farmer is visited by an official-looking person one day. The farmer has no clue who the visitor is. The visitor asks, "What do you feed your chicken?" The honest and innocent farmer says they just pick worms in the fields and eat whatever seeds and grains and crap they can get hold of. Turns out the visitor is from Department of Agricultural Standards, and the farmer has to pay a $1,000 fine for improper treatment of livestock. A few weeks later, another official-looking guy comes to visit and asks the same question. "What do you feed your chicken?" The farmer is now smarter and says, "I give them organic almonds, cashew and caviar." The officer is from the tax office, and the farmer ends up paying $1,000 fine for undisclosed income that is sustaining this lavish lifestyle of his chicken. A few weeks later, another officer comes visiting and asks the same question. "What do you feed your chicken?" The farmer is really in a tight spot now, and has learned from his previous experience. He thinks for a while and says, "Well, I give each of them 20 cents every morning, and they go buy themselves whatever damn thing they please from the supermarket." What do you want for breakfast? There were two elderly people who were trying to decide what to have for breakfast. Keep this in mind, because of their age, neither of them have the greatest memory anymore. The husband asks the wife, "What do you want for breakfast?" The wife responds, "Oh, just a bowl of oatmeal would be fine." "Okay," says the husband as he gets up and goes to the kitchen. A lot of time passes as the wife is still waiting for her oatmeal. She wonders, what is taking him so long? Oatmeal doesn't take all this time to make. After 45 minutes, the husband returns and he is carrying a tray, with 2 plates of pancakes, bacon, and fried eggs. The wife looks at him and says, "You are hopeless, completely hopeless. I told you I wanted my eggs scrambled." The rich man's coffee. A millionaire went to a cafe to order their special coffee. He told the waiter to get their most fresh ground and hot cup for a huge tip. The waiter served him the drink. The millionaire took a sip and said it tasted earthy but different. Once he was done with his coffee, he paid the waiter a huge tip and left. The owner came up to the waiter and said, "We were all out of our special coffee. What did you serve him?" The waiter replied, "I thought he wanted hot fresh ground, so I poured hot water to the dirt and served it." The drunken guy. A man and his wife are awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning by a loud pounding on the door. The man gets up and goes to the door where a drunken stranger, standing in the pouring rain, is asking for a push. "Not a chance," says the husband. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. He slams the door and returns to bed. "Who was that?" asked his wife. "Just some drunk guy asking for a push. Did you help him?" She asks. "No, I did not. It is 3 o'clock in the morning and it is pouring out there." "Well, you have a short memory. Can't you remember, about 3 months ago when we broke down, and those 2 guys helped us?" "I think you should help him, and you should be ashamed of yourself." The man does as he is told, gets dressed, and goes out into the pounding rain. "Hello, are you still there? Do you still need a push?" calls out the husband. "Yes, please," comes the reply from the dark. "Where are you?" asks the husband. "Over here on this wing," replies the drunk. The deadly Russian weapon. A new Russian recruit goes to the armory to get his weapons. The armorer looks around, and seeing there are no guns left, hand the soldier a broomstick. "But comrade," complains the recruit, "the enemy have real guns. How will this help me?" The armorer says to him, "Just point this at them and say bang bang bang. It will work." "But comrade," says the recruit, "the enemy has bayonets. How will I fight them close up?" The armorer looks around, pulls a popsicle stick out of the trash and tapes it to the end of the broomstick. "When they get close, thrust this at them and say stab stab stab. It will work." The dejected recruit gets on a truck and is taken to a guard post at the front. He sits for several hours with his broomstick, when suddenly he sees 10 Ukrainians advancing towards him. He jumps up, points his broomstick and yells bang bang bang. To his shock, 5 of the Ukrainians fall over dead. The other 5 charge at him, so he thrusts the end of the broomstick at them and yells stab stab stab. Incredibly, they also fall dead with stab wounds. Suddenly he sees another Ukrainian charging at him at 20 miles per hour, so he points his broomstick and yells bang bang bang, but nothing happens. The speedy Ukrainian gets close, So the recruit thrusts the stick and yells stab stab stab, but no effect. The Ukrainian hits the Russian, crushing his body. As the Russian lays dying, he can hear the Ukrainian saying tank tank tank. A tube of bengay. A man walks into a pharmacy and asks the pharmacist where he can find the Viagra. The pharmacist tells him he needs a prescription to buy it. The man smiles and says, "Bullshit. I have $100 in my pocket that says I don't need one." The pharmacist looks left and right to be sure they were out of earshot, then replies, "How many do you need?" The man says, "I have two 20-year-old French escorts spending the weekend with me. I figure I'll need about 10. The pharmacist concludes the transaction and wishes the man a great weekend. The following Monday morning the pharmacist looks up and notices the same man rummaging through the shelves, eager to be of assistance. He says, "Morning, how can I help you today?" The man moans and says, "I'm really hurting, I need a large tube of bengay." The pharmacist says, "Bengay? Hell, you can't put bengay on that thing." "What thing?" "It's for my wrist." The two women never showed up. Spend the night. Jeff lost his house and belongings to a massive flood. He arrived at his neighbor's door, hoping they'd let him crash there for the night. He knocked at the door and a lady opened up. "Lady, what do you want, sir?" "Jeff, I lost my house and all my money to the flood. Can I sleep here for the night?" "Lady, oh you poor soul. I wish I could help you but my husband isn't home and my daughter and I wouldn't feel safe letting a strange man stay for the night." Jeff then went and knocked at another neighbor's door. This time a middle-aged man opened the door. "Man, what the hell are you doing here?" "Jeff, I lost my house and all my money to the flood. Can I sleep here for the night?" "Man, I can't let a strange man into my house. I have a wife and a daughter whom I care about way too much. Please go away." Jeff was drenched in rain and desperate to find a place to crash in. He had already wasted enough time conversing with the neighbors, so now he decided to make things quicker. He went over and knocked at another door. A tall bodybuilder opened the door. "Bodybuilder, what brings you here?" "Jeff, is your wife or daughter home? I am looking to spend the night." The hunting license. A hunter went hunting one day in West Virginia and bagged 3 ducks. He put them in the bed of his pickup truck, and was about to drive home, where he was confronted by an ornery game warden who didn't like hunters. The game warden ordered to the hunter to show his hunting license, and the hunter pulled out a valid West Virginia hunting license. The game warden looked at the license, then reached over and picked up one of the ducks, sniffed its butt, and said, "This duck ain't from West Virginia. This is a Kentucky duck." "You got a Kentucky hunting license, boy?" The hunter reached into his wallet and produced a Kentucky hunting license. The game warden looked at it, then reached over and grabbed the second duck, sniffed its butt, and said, "This ain't no Kentucky duck. This duck's from Tennessee." "You got a Tennessee license?" The hunter reached into his wallet and produced a Tennessee license. The warden then reached over and picked up the third duck. "This duck's from Virginia." "You got a Virginia hunting license?" Again the hunter reached into his wallet and brought out a Virginia hunting license. The game warden was extremely frustrated at this point, and he yelled at the hunter, "Just where the hell are you from?" The hunter turned around, bent over, dropped his pants, and said, "You tell me, you're the expert." Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more Reddit just for a laugh.